When you need something hearty to fuel you up fast, grab a can of Campbell's Chunky Soup. Packed with big chunks of meat and vegetables, and now in 50 flavors. Campbell's Chunky Soup, the hearty way to fuel your game. Find your flavor at Chunky.com.
This is Larry Culpepper, and if you love college football as much as I do, enough to invent the playoff, you're welcome. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to the Championship Drive podcast in the Listen tab of your ESPN app. App is short for app.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
From our family to yours, we hope that wherever you spent last night, the TV was functional, the doorbell was ringing. And then, of course, we get to Monday Night Football, and the Vikings lose their second straight game.
They're going to go as far as that defense can take them this year, and last night they did not perform well.
The Patriots ship linebacker Jamie Collins to Cleveland.
They trade away a guy, arguably their best defensive player.
Oh, yeah. It's a head-scratcher for the talent that this guy has.
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
Here we are, all that and more in the hopper. Herman Edwards is in our studio. Ryan Clark is on his way. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Also, the most important reminder I can give you, in this hour, 45 minutes from right now, we're going to give you today's winning word. We're going to give you the ways to enter it, and you could be on your way to the college football national championship game with us. We will get our first glimpse of the teams that might be playing in that game tonight on ESPN when we have the rankings.
Yeah, I think the four are pretty obvious in Alabama, Clemson, Washington, and
Michigan.
I think that will be obvious. But as I said earlier, the last couple of years, on the one year and two another year, made the first ranking and made it all the way to the last ranking. So you think there's going to be some shifting. The keys to see is the first couple of teams out, which many believe will be Louisville and Ohio State in whatever order it's going to be.
Herman Edwards in our studio as well. Let me read you a little something on Jamie Collins' versatility. And for those watching on ESPN2, Golick just did a really nice little breakdown of the different things he can bring to a defense. He has lined up, Herman, this year in 12 different position groups. Most commonly, he's played right inside linebacker. But again, here's a guy who can sort of play all over the field, do a lot of different things for you. I will never question, in the same way that I don't question Nick Saban, I don't question Bill Belichick.
No.
I don't question Greg Popovich. These guys have proven they know what they're doing. But I do find this a very curious move.
Well, it's curious, but to me, it's not surprising. You knew that this guy was going to be asked for a lot of money. He's somewhat of what we call a joker on defense in the fact you can move him around. But he's a space player.
But isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean, but you know, he's not a hammer. He's not a guy that's going to constantly take the run on. He's a space player, and you did a nice job of illustrating that, Mike, in the fact that he's a spy linebacker in the middle. He can run. He can cover man-to-man. He's good on blitzing. He does a lot of what I call read and react. They put him in there as a plugger in pass defense, and if guys are blocked and no one's coming across the middle, he adds on to the rush. So he's an athletic guy, and teams look for guys like this. In our system, in old Tampa Bay system, he would be a will linebacker. Right. So he's covered up by the three technique. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't have to take on a lot. He'll be like a Derek Brooks. He can run. He can just run, and you send him on blitzes, and he's good in coverage. That's what he does.
That's not what they do in New England.
He's not a guy that's good around garbage. No. You know, if you get a lot of players around him out at his feet or trying to block him, he's better in space. So that's going forward to Cleveland. I'm not saying, he didn't fit in New England. I just think most of it is exactly what we talked about and exactly what Bill has done in the past. He trades guys before he has to pay them, and he gets something for them. So now let's spin it forward. He's going to get a ton of money in Cleveland when it's a free. Now they're at the point, if they can't work out a deal, they can franchise tag him as well. So he could be there, and how will they use him? Here's what they're doing in Cleveland, trying to rebuild. You rebuild with draft picks. You saw 14 draft picks all make the team this year, but you have to supplement that with veterans as well. And here they got a veteran, and not an old veteran. He's only been in the league like 4 years.
He's 27?
Yeah, so you got a versatile guy to go with some of the young players to start to build again. It'll be real interesting to see how they use him in Cleveland.
And that's the decision in pro football. You have this period of when you draft the guy, you have about a 4-year window to determine what type of player he is and what is his value monetarily to your football team. And there comes a point, in the National Football League defensively, you'd basically want to play two positions on defense. You want to play an excellent cover guy, whether it's a safety that can cover or a corner, and then you want to play a rusher. On offense, You like to build it by paying the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you have one of those guys that's a franchise guy and a left tackle. I mean, that's how you'd like to divide the money up at those 4 positions.
Mike Herman Edwards is here. We have Ryan Clark coming. I have a few things that I've saved here that I want to do with him. Let me read you a couple of tweets. John tweets, first start a movement to stop moving daylight savings time because being dark by 5:30 is fun for no one. Remember, they moved daylight savings time beyond Halloween. It used to come before.
It's coming this weekend.
It's coming this weekend. And it is because they now have moved it towards always after Halloween. You know me. I'm in
hour
favor,
and a half.
I'm not in favor of time zones. I have been for years advocating the removal of time zones. China is a country that's basically as big as we are. It's all one time zone. Seems to work. We should just have one time zone. If right now it's 7:05 here and it's 4:05 in L.A., let's make it 5:35 everywhere and get on with our day.
There we go.
I'm okay with that.
All right.
It doesn't matter to me. I sleep 4 hours a day, so it doesn't matter to me. I'm up.
Doesn't care.
It's always daytime for me.
1-800-Flowers.com.
I don't worry about all that nonsense. See, you guys are on that. I got a different clock. Yeah, I'm not on your clock, guys.
Herman on the or the Twitter on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. You only sleep 4 hours.
And if I get 6, I'm good. But generally 4.5, yeah, I'm good.
And you're fine.
I'm okay.
Fine. You see the guy when he comes in here? He's
already worked out.
He's already been in the gym.
I worked out this morning. I got up at 3:45 because I knew it was an early one because I had to get here at 6:30.
We all wish. How old are you?
I'm 62.
We all wish we could be like that. Are you kidding me?
I wish I could be like that when I was 22.
Yeah. I mean, are you kidding?
You're remarkable. The
Yeah.
other guy who was like that, and he was much, much, much older than you at this time, was, remember, Dr. Jack Ramsey?
Oh, boy, he was
Holy
the best.
Smokes.
I loved him.
He was
May
the
rest
best.
in peace. Jack used to come on with us all the time, and back in the earliest days of Mike and Mike, he'd come on with us at 7:30 in the morning to talk basketball. He had already gone for a swim in the ocean.
Yeah.
He's the best.
He used to get up in the morning and swim in the ocean. He was in his 80s. So that's good stuff. Michael tweets, some towns actually do hold Halloween on a Saturday. It's a town-by-town thing. Billy Sale
I
is
see that. I definitely seen that. You absolutely can, right?
Michael tweets, all of us who are teachers would be all for the move. Yesterday was difficult to teach anything, and today won't be any better.
I wonder why. And you're trying to tell kids, don't eat candy in class, right? They got pockets full of candy
That's
right
exactly right.
So we'll have Ryan Clark up here in just a second. Let me give you one more thing, because this is the thing that I mentioned earlier that everyone has been talking about, and I can't make up my own mind whether this means something or it means nothing. Did you see that the World Series game on Sunday night trounced the football game?
Yes.
Oh.
And that's a very attractive football game. Mm-hmm. It's the Eagles and the Cowboys, which is an historical rivalry. It's 2 big markets. They're 2 big national teams, NFC East. The Cowboys are America's team for whatever that's worth. And let me give you a little context on it. So this year, the baseball game on Sunday night, Game 5, Cubs-Indians, did a 15-2 rating. That is compared to an 11-7 rating that the Royals and Mets did last year, comparable game. The football game this year, again, relative to a 15-2, did an 11-5. Mm-hmm. Last year, Green Bay-Denver on the same night did a 14-3. So last year, Green Bay-Denver easily outrated the World Series. This year, the World Series easily outrated the football.
And you look at that rating last year of that football game compared to this year, 14-11? That's Philly and Dallas. I'm surprised. That's a good Sunday night game. I'm surprised at that. But we know ratings have been down in this year for the NFL, and people are given a lot of different reasons, and it's certainly not just one thing. There are multiple reasons. They are absolutely down. And listen, you have the perfect storm this year, don't you? I mean, not only the Cubs and the Indians, the 2 teams that haven't won in the but it's the Cubs. This rating, as much as an Indian fan as I am, and hope they close down the deal tonight, this is about the Cubs. This is the Cubs in the World Series, and just what that generates for sports fans.
That's a great point. And last year, though, it's Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers. Okay, you got.
I thought of that. Was Peyton playing at that point?
It didn't matter. He's a household name. It's Peyton Manning.
Right. But he might not have been.
You don't watch Peyton Manning.
But he might have been. My point is he might
was
have
hurt, too.
He went through a period where he didn't play last year, remember?
I don't know if
it might have been Brock Osweiler.
Okay, maybe. But still, the fact that it's Denver with Peyton Manning, whether he's hurt or not, and it's Aaron Rodgers, all that has something to do with it.
Ryan Clark is here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, half the cost. It was Peyton Manning. Good morning, first off.
Good morning, guys.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on quickly on this? And then I have some stuff I've been saving for us here. What are your thoughts on this whole ratings down thing in the NFL?
Well, you know, I'm new to the TV guy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm new to understanding what ratings are and how they affect what's going on. And I think it's a lot of things. You can look at the election. You can look at some of the stuff from the Kaepernick fallout. And also I think some of these games haven't necessarily been as interesting as we would like. They haven't been as enthralling. The play hasn't been as high of a level as we expect from certain NFL games. And so I think it's a multitude of reasons, like Golick said. And then you look at the Cubs and the Indians. Like, this is a series that people have wanted for hundreds of years. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, hundreds of years they've been waiting on this, and I think that plays a part into it. So it's kind of the perfect storm for the ratings to be down for football and up for baseball.
I think what we didn't even mention is Red Zone Channel and fantasy football. I think these are two huge things that people maybe don't consume a game just by sitting and watching 3 hours of it because they have the Red Zone on and they're going all over the place.
There's a lot of different reasons, but understand this. The mountain that the National Football League was on, it's a pretty high mountain, okay? And when it drops a little bit, everybody says, ooh, they just dropped. I believe this, too. I think a little bit of college football has hurt the National Football League.
Meaning?
In this sense. When you watch a college football game, it's 35, 40, 50 points. And people they like that. I mean, people love scoring, regardless of what we say. You know, they want to see defense when you're winning the last 2 minutes.
Right.
Then they're hollering defense, stop them. First 59, first 58, they could care less. Hey, just keep scoring, boys. In the last 2 minutes, they're voting for defense. They want you to stop them, right? So when you watch college football, and they have this advantage in college football, the quarterback generally is the best player. And what does he do? He runs. Makes a lot of plays with his legs. So they make a lot of plays, and they're spread out. They throw it all over the yard. It's 50 passes, just regular. It's just, Cal Berkeley, my old school, they score 50 points, and they can lose 55-50.
Right.
It doesn't matter,
right.
Okay? And they just play. And so then you watch an NFL game, we're driven by the quarterback. First of all, quarterbacks, we don't want them to run because they get hurt, right? And we protect them. Well, there's a discussion on that.
Except for one.
Except for that Carolina, right?
There's one of them we don't protect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, you watch an NFL game, and it's like, oh, it's 7-3 in the first quarter. You're going, it's a boring game.
Yeah.
Because on Saturday, you've watched college football all day. When do we start that thing? The game day. At 7 o'clock in the morning in California.
9 o'clock.
Here you go.
Yep.
Game behind. And, everybody's getting excited. and so you watch a college football game, you turn to any channel, and it's like, there's another touchdown. There's another touchdown. And it's Sunday, you watch Sunday games, it's like, can somebody please score, right? You wait a whole quarter, and it's 7-3. It's 7-3, so you're a fan. You're going, this is a boring game.
I never thought of that because, quite honestly, I'll watch those 55-50 games, and they don't entertain me as much.
Like one bit for me.
Because you're an old-school defensive guy, though.
I mean, I'd like to see I'd like to see a little bit of both, and that. But that's it. That's a good point.
To me, I'm a fan. I love football.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll watch it. High school football's on Friday. I watch football. And you watch it. You sit there. You go. You watch an NFL game, you're almost sleeping. You go 3 and out, okay, they punt, 3 and out, they punt, and then there's a fumble. Oh, we got field position, and you sit there and you laugh.
And people will say, well, why can't they make it more exciting in the NFL by having those quarterbacks do that? And it'll never happen because they'll get hurt.
Too much money.
Yeah, they're paid
way
too much money. They'll run too much, and they'll get hurt. And then that'll be the end of that. So that's a very
That's what people,
point.
I think, are, when they watch it. It can be. Now, and when there's an elite quarterback playing, then people will watch it. When you hear Aaron Rodgers, we got to watch them. Right?
I'll tell you what, that Green Bay Atlanta game,
Oh, yeah.
It was a great game to watch.
That was a good
game
to watch.
See?
And what was the final of that one? It was
33-32.
Yeah. But I'm just saying. So when you hear the quarterbacks, you go, ooh, you're going to watch the Raiders. You're going to watch the Raiders, right? Because that Carr fella, hey, they fourth quarter, here come the Raiders. They got the patch on the eye of the Raiders, right?
What they saying, Coach?
Come on, you got to watch those guys.
Let the record show Herman Edwards is a national treasure.
Smokes.
By the way, quick note on this with the baseball. Everyone knows about the Cubs and their history and everything else. Do you know if the Indians win the World Series either tonight or tomorrow night, it will be the first time they win the series in Cleveland since 1920 when they beat the Brooklyn Robins The Robins.
The Robins.
I like my favorite superhero, Robin. The Brooklyn Robins.
Or not.
Players in that series were Pinch Thomas, Duster Mails, Smokey Joe Wood, Burley Grimes, and Ivy Olsen.
I'm telling you right now, you have your movement about Halloween and Independence Day.
Yeah.
My movement is every player needs a nickname.
No doubt about it.
I love those names in the 20s. Read some of this. Smokey.
Pinch Thomas.
Yeah.
Duster Mails, Smokey Joe Wood, Burley Grimes, and Ivy Olsen.
It's awesome. We need to give the stars
Where do
of
they come up with
everything.
that stuff?
I don't know, but it's great. Let's give the star. We need to do that one show in the summer when nothing's going on, is pick the baseball teams, the stars on each team, and give them a nickname. Give them a nickname. It's awesome.
Are you going to let
that.
Greeny give him a nickname, though?
No, I'm not letting Greeny
Okay,
give him a
perfect.
nickname. Absolutely
Okay,
not.
Mike and Mike, I don't like this piling on Greeny thing that has begun in Ryan's visits, but we'll visit. All right, it's time for Straight Talk.
I did get screamed at last week.
Straight Talk's brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, half the cost. Okay, here's what I've been wanting to get into this. I really wanted to do it yesterday, but we were just so busy with everything else. So we all know Brian Baldinger, who is a fine NFL player for a long time and works for the NFL Network now, which is significant in that he is an NFL employee.
Teammate of mine in Philly.
A teammate of yours in Philly, but for the purposes of this story, he actually works for the National Football League. If you are an employee of NFL Network, you work for the National Football League. So last week, one day, he was on 97.5 The Fanatic, the radio station in Philadelphia, talking about the Eagles game against the Cowboys. And Ryan, here's what he said, what Brian Baldinger said. And Ryan, I start with you because you're the most recent player on this set. Talking about what they have to do to stop Ezekiel Elliott. He said, quote, "This is the guy we've got to hurt. This is the guy we've got to take out of the game. There's got to be 10 guys that want to hurt him every single play. In fact, we may even put a little bounty on Ezekiel Elliott." As the story that I'm reading here by Michael David Smith goes, he then echoed a favorite phrase of Greg Williams during the Saints bounty scandal, saying, "You want to cut the head off to kill the body. That's the guy you've got to get to." So he then went on to explain that there were a lot of things about Zeke Elliott that bother him, including the way his flashiness and the dressing with the short shirt and all that. But let's put that part of it aside for a moment. Let's just talk about how he's a great running back. He is the key to their offense. He's the guy who makes them go. And certainly, Herman, at the time that you played, and Mike, at the time that you played, this would have been commonplace discussion.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Ryan, you played up until very recently. In the Bounty Gate era, in the player safety era, and all of that, is this appropriate conversation around a football game anymore?
It's just not appropriate for people to hear. Right? Yeah. So with the way that we've moved as a society, you don't want to hear these things. Obviously, the NFL, you think about Bountygate and some of the things that were said or we heard Greg Williams said. Obviously, we were just shocked and appalled by it. But it's football. And I know we come to me because I'm the most recent player, but I'm really old as football goes, as the new age of not being able to say certain things, hit people certain ways goes. And yeah, I was part of Greg Williams's defense in 2004 in Washington, where he said if a guy was on the sideline and you pushed him out of bounds, that was an issue to him. You go to him and you take his legs out. You make him remember the fact that he just had the ball. And so I think the way that he worded it is, to people of today's football, it's unacceptable. But that's the way you have to hunt sometimes. And I hate to use the word hunt because I know they'll be calling me barbaric and saying certain things. But that's what it was. When it was a guy who was the fuel to the engine of an offense, it's not necessarily that you thought to yourself, I need to hurt him and he needs to not play football anymore. But in some way, the way we play football needs to affect his effectiveness.
I think that's what we try to explain to people when because we did that all the time. I said it on the $100 big hits, but bounty on that. It happened. It was never just what you said. You never wanted to put the guy out for the year. And I know it's you're doing levels of hurting somebody, but our motto was the more hats you put on a guy, the less chance he has of getting up.
Yeah.
And finishing the game. And who's that good for? It's good for us. So that was the motto. Get all the hats you can on him, and if he doesn't get up, he doesn't get up. And hope he plays next week. It wasn't we don't want to blow his knee out or break something or have him out for the year. We want to knock him out of this game. If we hit him and he doesn't get up, okay.
Good for us.
We move on, and we go play.
Herman?
But to say that now, what Baldy said, Ryan's right. It doesn't sound good at all, but I'm telling that's the talk in locker room.
And it's just interesting. Yeah. And again, I barely know Brian Baldinger, but I do like him. He's been on our show, and I think he's a good guy. I just find it interesting that someone, if you work for the NFL Network, people don't always think of it this way, but you are actually an NFL employee.
Right.
The NFL went after the Saints and basically destroyed the franchise for Bountygate and all the rest of that. And now here you have an NFL employee saying, well, what I think the Eagles need to do is put a bounty on Ezekiel Elliott. That's a very interesting thing to me. You know what, Herman? I want to hold you on this. Can I keep you here? Usually I let you go at this point, but I want to hold you because I really want to get more into this. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable networks, because I think this is an important conversation. Are we at a crossroads in football where it's one thing to try to legislate as much football out of football as you possibly can, but now are we really changing the culture, or are we just hiding the culture from the public? I think that's an interesting question. We're going to get to the bottom of that here. Ryan is here. Herman is here. Winning word of the day is 25 minutes away. All that and more as we continue on Mike and Mike. But right now, a word from Pennzoil. Mike, Pennzoil Synthetics with Pure Plus technology make this the time for performance. The air is starting to get crisp. The leaves are changing. Fall is finally here. What a great time of year to get out with the family and catch some gridiron action. And before you load up the kids and hit the road, make sure you're getting the most out of your car.
Make the switch to Pennzoil. Keep your engine performance at its best, because there's not another synthetic made with Pure Plus technology. With Pennzoil Synthetics, you get the wear protection and fuel economy you need for those long drives to the stadium this fall. Even if you're just heading down the road for a little windows down driving, make sure your car is in its best shape for the trip. Visit Pennzoil.com. Make the switch today. Save $2 per quart on any qualifying Pennzoil purchase. See Pennzoil.com/rebate for more info. We're back after this, Mike and Mike.
Cutler pulls back on the handoff, goes to slant, end zone, touchdown, Alshon Jeffrey. They got him and worked on Trey Waynes to replace the injured Rhodes. They went at him, touchdown Bears in a 19-3 lead here in the third quarter at Soldier Field. First touchdown of the year for Alshon.
The call by American hero Jeff Joniak on WBBM Radio in Chicago. Again, he is one because he gave me my first job. Were it not for Jeff Joniak, Mike, I don't know who you'd be sitting next to right now, but it wouldn't be me.
Jeff, I'm going to get you someday.
Your life would be incomplete, comparatively speaking.
My life would be so much better.
Bears beat the Vikings 20-10 last night, so Jeff was happy. Tonight, first college football playoff rankings of the season, exclusively released 7 Eastern on ESPN. And then, actually, same time for the start of the coverage on ESPN Radio in Cleveland, World Series, Game 6, Arrieta, Tomlin. Should be good. Sports Center with Mike and Mike, brought to you by Burger King.
What's the best place to have your breakfast? How about on a warm croissant right now at Burger King? Get 2 sandwich breakfast sandwiches for just $4. A light, flaky croissant piled high with sausage or bacon. 2 croissant sandwiches for $4 only at Burger King. Price and participation vary.
Winning word in 15 minutes. We'll give you the word. We'll give you the ways to enter the contest. It's as simple as that. You could win a trip with us to the College Football National Championship game. Herman Edwards is here. Ryan Clark is here. So I have 3 defensive players on my set up here. And to reset for those of you who are just joining us, Brian Baldinger, who played offensive line in the NFL for a long time and now works for NFL Network, which again is significant because it means he is an employee of the National Football League, went on the radio in Philadelphia last week on 97.5 The Fanatic, previewing Eagles-Cowboys, and said, and I quote, of Ezekiel Elliott, "This is the guy we've got to hurt. This is the guy we've got to take out of the game. There's got to be 10 guys that want to hurt him every single play. In fact, we may even put a little bounty on Ezekiel Elliott." And, of course, the question becomes, is that an appropriate way to talk about football anymore in an era where the New Orleans Saints spent an entire season without their head coach because of a bounty program on their team? Can you have an NFL employee suggesting the Eagles should have a bounty on Zeke Elliott? We've heard from Ryan. We've heard from Golick. Herman, let's hear from you.
Well, it's real simple when you break football down in the simplest terms, regardless of what era you played in, whether you played in the era of myself, or Golick, or Ryan, even the guys before us, the guys that we actually stood on their shoulders to continue the game, to play the game. It's about testing of a man's will. Mm-hmm. It's knocking a man off his spot, to be quite honest, taking his enthusiasm away for his job that day that you play. And when you feel you've done that, there's this nice feeling you have in the fact that we're going to win today. And I'll tell all parents, it's not meant for everyone. This game of football, it's not. It's just not. And you have to have a certain personality to play it. And it's a game that basically will test all that. And if you're not mentally and physically tough to understand that, this is not the game for you. I'll tell you right away. Mm-hmm. And it's never going to change. And we can change the rules. We can build better equipment, and I think that's all necessary. Mm-hmm. It is really to enforce and intimidate players. That's what you try to do, because then you feel you have an advantage. And when you play defense, that's your intentions. Your intentions are very, very simple. Hit the guy with the ball. Hit him.
Yeah.
And it takes more than one. And you'd like to hit him with a bunch of guys. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yeah. You just go hit him. And if it's the quarterback, hit him. Make him feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And if it's a running back, bring hats to the party. Hit him. And if it's a wide receiver, you want to make sure he doesn't feel comfortable coming over the middle of the football field. That's never going to change. And so we can spin it and make it, fluff it up and say we can't use those words.
Right.
I'm just telling you, when you go play this game at any level, it starts in high school, it starts in college, and professional, you get paid for it, but it's the same game. It's about testing a guy's will, and I want to look in that guy's eyes at the end and say, you know what? I'm tougher than you. I am tougher than you. And if I know that, I win my battle.
And that's why I think it's one of the greatest games, and especially at a young age, teaches so much about teamwork, relying on a team member, and getting knocked down. We're always going to get knocked down in life, and how you get back up. But I agree with everything you said. And you know, when we talk about this, you have to understand that there are those out there, you can't use the broad brush and say nobody does it, that really tries to hurt. They'll go for a knee or something like that. That's not what we're talking about.
No.
Right. And I will go back because it's so in my head when I was 10 years old and I was going to first start this game. And my dad, who was a former Marine and a former football player as well, a tough, strong guy, taught me the right way to play football. And one of the things he said about it, as long as you're going to get hit and you're going to learn a lot of things and this and that, he said your job on defense, just what Herm said, is to get the guy with the ball and hit him as hard as you can. Mm-hmm. As hard as you can, and drive him into the ground, you know, when you were allowed to drive him into the ground. But for the sake of this argument, hit him as hard as you can. And sometimes when that happens, he doesn't get up.
Yeah.
And you know what? He said, that's football. If it was a clean hit, and you hit him hard, and he doesn't get up, you don't wish him to be hurt bad, but that's football, and it can happen. So that's kind of what, in mass, what we're saying. Get all the helmet you can on him, and if he doesn't finish the game, he doesn't finish the game.
Well, you know what happened, though? Like, we were all part of these speeches where football has a different language.
Yeah.
Like, it just really does. We don't look at certain words and think to ourselves, we take them for face value. You know, you've heard guys say, you're going to get out and you're going to play hard and you're going to kill him. Obviously, we don't think to ourselves, we want this person to die. But sometimes that's the mentality you have to compete at a high level in a very physical sport. And because of Bountygate, because of how we've talked about player safety, I think some of that has been taken where we tried to take all of that out the game, when at its essence, at its truest form, that's what football is. We're going to go hunt this man down with the ball, and we hope he doesn't get up. We don't hope that he's disfigured. We don't hope that he can't play again.
Right.
But we hope that every time he has to pull himself off the ground, he thinks to himself, I do not want to play anymore. One of the biggest compliments I ever got in my last year when I was super old, and I was like, yeah, I'm about to go work at Golick and Green. This is done. LaShawn McCoy was running the football, and I tackled him, and he got up, and he said, every time I play you, when I break the line of scrimmage, I look for you. It's the greatest compliment I ever got in life because it let me know that every time he gets the ball, he is wondering where I am because he knows I might miss him. But if I catch him, it's going to be trouble. And that's how you need to play the game.
I so appreciate everything you guys are saying. There is one word, however, in all of this that I think skews it for a lot of people, and that word is bounty. Now, bounty is a word that got the New Orleans Saints,
right.
Almost shut down the franchise, right? I mean, half the guys got fired. The head coach got suspended for a year. You basically took away a franchise ability to succeed based on the word bounty. So I think when we hear the word bounty, those who didn't play, who weren't in that, I get everything else you're saying. Hunt them down, knock them down, hit them, hurt them, take away his will.
But that's what Ryan is saying is like the vernacular that we use, people don't understand.
But what is it?
Because I'll tell you right now, when we did it, it had a bounty. If it was on an illegal hit or if it was on a cheap shot, you didn't get that. You didn't get it.
No doubt.
You didn't get it. It's what I said.
So it's $100 if you knock Ezekiel Elliott out of the game legally.
No, the bounty could be a lot more than that. It was a $100 big hit.
Okay.
Could be more than
$1,000.
But yeah, it would be if you hit him clean and he can't finish the game, you get that. But you know what you're trying to do even if there isn't a bounty? The same thing. It's just that's kind of a locker room type of a thing. Hey, we're trying to do this anyway, but if it happens, hey, we'll give you a few.
So why is Brian Baldinger saying it then? That's the part of it that I find interesting is I get what you're saying.
Because it's kind of what
Mike and I had these conversations through the entire bounty gate. You explained it to me in ways that I fully understand it. I get what you're saying. But the point is that now here we are in 2016
right.
with all the conversations we're having and the whole concept in an era where we're so worried about who's being protected and who's not and all of that we're going to say we're going to put a bounty on Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, is that still okay to say that and to think that, privately or publicly?
The goal hasn't changed.
No.
Like
absolutely
the goal
not.
is the same, and it's going to be the same as long as we play football. What we can say to the masses and what the masses will consume and accept has become different. Right, because we have told the world that we are going to protect players and player safety is important. But you can believe when true defensive players step on the field, they want to make their presence felt. Whether it's we're going to get a bounty for putting this guy out the game, or it's just the simple satisfaction of knowing that I'm the most physical person on this field. That's what football is.
And I will say this, and I want to make sure I clarify what I just said. I have never taught or never played the game of football with the intentions to injure a player. Right. That is not football at any level.
Agree, completely agree.
And if any coach coaches it that way, he should get out of the game at any level. That is not the intentions. The intentions is to test a person's will within the framework of the rules. Mm-hmm. That's the way the game is played, okay? That's the way it's taught by 99% of any coach or any player that steps on the field. I never, and maybe I'm naive, I never think a player his intentions are to injure a guy.
Right. And some are. That's why we can't say it 100%. Yeah. Some are, some do. But I'm with you. I completely still go back to my dad raising me to play the game. And he taught me, in my opinion, to play the game the right way.
Yes.
Hard, clean,
that's right.
Physical football. And that's what I try to pass. I completely agree with you.
Ryan, let me ask you two questions. In your opinion, I know that these – I'm going to get a little deep here with you, but is Vontaze Burfict a dirty player? I'll tell you in advance what the second question is.
Yeah.
Was James Harrison a dirty player?
No.
Your teammate?
No. James and Vontaze are totally different to me because some of the extracurriculars that go on, like after play, some of the stepping on people and different things like that, James never did. James' decision every time he stepped on the field was physically, I am going to dominate you. And I think even if Baldy uses those words, it's a different statement. I'm going to physically dominate you. I think Vontaze and James are different because of what happens in between plays and what is said from each person.
It's interesting because, I mean, Harrison was, and he was your teammate at the time, sort of the poster child for the initial Roger Goodell is the dean of discipline on the field era,
Definitely.
Right? It was all about that. It was all about the hits to the head and Muhammad Massaquoi and different guys. And he himself, James Harrison, kept saying, well, this is the way I play. I'm not going to change the way I play. And so to me, I I understand the distinction that you're making, but I think a lot of people looked at it that way and felt otherwise.
Well, they don't. I mean, real quick, a tweet from Lindsay. This attitude towards hitting hard and injuries, this is why NFL is losing viewership. I don't want to watch people get hurt. Lindsay, this hasn't changed. When the ratings were as high as they ever were, this was going on. You know what it is, right. Lindsay? You don't want to hear the words.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Actually, though,
you don't want to hear the words.
When the ratings were high, right, it was worse. It was worse.
Way worse.
We had Jacked Up. Do you guys remember Jacked Up?
Of course.
Yes. I legitimately used to go home for Monday Night Football and be like, man, I had a great hit this week. It was clean. It was a clean hit. I'm going to be on Jacked Up. Yep. And my homeboys would call me, RC, you were number 3 this week.
That means some people might argue that the reason NFL ratings are down in part is because a lot of the big hits that people watched football to see are being taken out of the game. I got to hold that thought for a minute. I got to break. Coming back with the word of the day. There's a lot more here, obviously, and I want to see the Twitter reaction to this because this is, I think, at its core, a very important football conversation. We'll continue it, but more importantly, the word of the day is next. Just be with us. We're going to give you the word and the way to enter. You could be on your way with us to the College Football Championship. After this, from Sport Clips Haircuts, Mike, who with the VFW have partnered to provide scholarships to active duty U.S. service members and veterans for a degree or vocational certification through the Help a Hero Scholarship Program.
These scholarships can help our nation's heroes receive the education they need to succeed in a post-military career. Not all U.S. service members qualify for 100% of the GI Bill benefits, and military tuition assistance does have some limitations, so these scholarships help fill those gaps. Visit Sport Clips Haircuts now through Veterans Day, which is November 11th, to learn more. We're back after this, Mike and Mike.
Ferguson, the right people, the right products, right around the corner. Visit Ferguson.com today.
Mike and Mike, our Sports Center brought to you by Burger King. What's the best place to have your breakfast? How about on a warm croissant? Right now at Burger King, get 2 croissant breakfast sandwiches for just $4. A light, flaky croissant piled high with savory sausage or delicious, thick-cut smoked bacon. 2 croissant sandwiches for $4 only at Burger King. Price and participation vary. Okay, before we continue this discussion with Herman and Ryan, here's the most important thing we do all day long. Again, with our endless thanks to our friends at AutoZone, who are the presenting sponsor of this contest this year, this sweepstakes, we are bringing you and a guest with us to the College Football National Championship game. A winner every single day just for knowing the word and entering it, both of the 2 ways Golic is about to give you. And because there was a big trade in the NFL yesterday, today's word is really simple. It's trade.
Good word.
Good job by the staff.
Yeah.
So send a message to our staff. If we get record numbers of entries today, then maybe they will finally just make the word something simple.
Right.
Like trade. T-R-A-D-E. So please, today, enter both ways the word trade. Golic, what is it?
These are the only 2 ways to enter the word trade, and you have to do it these 2 ways. If not, you will not be entered. So text the word trade to 777-000 or enter online at mikesroadtothecfp.com. So again, text the word 777-000 or enter online at mikesroadtothecfp.com. Do it, gang. We're getting a winner today, as we've had each of the other days and going forward. You and a guest will come with us to Tampa Bay for the title game. Going to be a fantastic trip.
AutoZone giving you a chance to be on the road with us. Tune in daily. You'll hear the word. Get in the zone with AutoZone. Okay, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Herman is here. Ryan Clark is here. Not all of the country hears every single thing we do, Mike, so I'd like you to repeat what you just said for part of the nation, because I think it's really important in this discussion about football, which I think is a very important one, and it has to be done responsibly. Yours is a good point.
When we're talking about the NFL, we're talking about the NFL. One thing we don't want to do, and I'm sure you guys would agree, is take it down to the youth level.
No.
We're in the safest part football has been in a long time with the acknowledgement of what's going on with head injuries and trying to get better equipment. And the key for the next generation is youth football and the coaching that goes on and how they're taught. And I got a text from a gentleman that says, great conversation. I'm a youth football coach. How do you coach toughness at the youth level? And my point is you teach fundamentals at the youth level. I bring up my father a lot because he's how I got started in sports. I got in front of a mirror every single night 50 times, got in a right-handed stance and a left-handed stance. Mm-hmm. It was boring, but I did it. And that was the one thing I had to do when I started coaching is I wanted to teach them the fundamentals so much that to a kid it can be boring, so you have to find a way to make it fun as well. But teach them the fundamentals of the game from stance to stepping to hands to tackling with their head up. That's going to have them build confidence as a young football player. That's going to develop toughness as well. That's where you need to start in the youth level is teaching these kids that.
So that's the youth level.
Yes.
So now, Ryan, at what stage the type of conversation we're talking about here, which, again, anyone around the sport, none of this at any point has ever stunned me. And I never played football, but I've just heard this kind of conversation back when I was covering the sport in locker rooms in the 90s. There was no one was trying to hide it. At what stage does that start, though? Is high school football an appropriate place to have the mentality you're talking about, taking another guy's will away, hitting him hard, and if he doesn't get up, he doesn't get up again?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it was definitely where it started for me. My head coach in high school, his name was Hank Tierney, and I remember we played a game against a team that ran the option, coach, and I played safety, and we were in cover 4, which means we all just have a quarter of the field. And when I saw him come down the line, my job was to go quarterback to running back. And I remember that game, and I was watching TV, and I had seen a DB in the league. He was cutting, hitting the quarterback, the running backs low. I was like, man, that's really cool how they take their legs out. And I remember taking their legs out, and he brought me in to the locker room the next week. It was like, you don't do that. When you play football, you go up and you hit him high and you hit him in the mouth. And that was just how it was taught, because to him, an old school football coach, that showed toughness, that you weren't scared to be face-to-face with somebody who was carrying the ball. And that was just the way it was taught. And it wasn't taught in a malicious way for you to hurt the player. It was taught in a way that the other side saw you as physical, that the other side saw you as somebody who was willing to give of themselves in order to make them feel a certain way. And so I think that for me now, the talk has to change completely. Like, there has to be a different way of getting your point across because of the emphasis we put on player safety.
Herman, give me the final word.
The final word is this. Don't lose sight of the life lessons that football teaches all of us. Mm-hmm. It teaches us team. It teaches us discipline. It teaches us toughness. It teaches us togetherness, that we're only a part of the big picture. And so those are the life skills you can take and apply them in your life, and you'll be successful. There's discipline in this game of football. There's trust. There's camaraderie. There's this huddle that football and sports, basically, they don't see color. Mm-hmm. It's a level playing field, and all those things you learn when you play the great game of football.
Great point.
All our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including Cal Ripken later this morning. Herman, you were the best. Thanks, Herman. As always. We continue with Ryan and more in a moment. Mike and Mike.
Now with your American Express card, it's 2 times as splendid to shop small at local stores, because today is 2-Day, and you could earn 2 times your rewards. So now those Main Street beats and corner treats are 2 times as cool and 2 times as sweet. One-of-a-kind finds have 2 times the surprise, and hidden spots are 2 times the tops. There's always a special feeling when you shop small in your neighborhood. And now that it's 2-Day, it feels 2 times as good.
Now through December 31st, you could earn 2 times your rewards when you shop small with an enrolled American Express card. Learn more and enroll at AmericanExpress.com. You will not earn 2 times rewards on any bonus you may already enjoy with your card. Prepaid and corporate cards, cards issued by other financial institutions, the Plum Card, and certain other cards are not eligible. Reward cap and other terms apply.
Learn more and enroll online today at AmericanExpress.com. Get out, get together, and shop small.
College football lives here. After a 1-3 start, USC has won 4 straight and have their sights set on defending their Pac-12 South title.
Slash back at the 5, touchdown, Trojans.
Up next, Oregon comes to the Coliseum, averaging over 40 points per game.
Sudden change, big play for the Ducks, they take over.
Coverage begins Saturday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, presented by Dr. Pepper. Number 1 ranked Alabama heads to Death Valley for a huge SEC showdown against LSU.
Snap,
fumble. Alabama's got the football.
Coverage begins Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.